Welcome to episode 12 of the Spiritual Sovereign Sister podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth, Akashic Records practitioner, teacher, and founder of Divine Feminine Reiki. And today we're exploring past lives and the concept of past life bleed over. And if you've ever met someone and felt like you've known them forever, found yourself repeating the same painful patterns despite doing years of healing work, or experienced a fear, challenge, or emotional reaction that felt bigger than what was happening in your current life, today's episode is for you because these are often the kinds of questions that lead people to explore their past lives. Through Akashic record readings and past life regressions, I've seen how exploring the soul's history can reveal why certain people enter our lives and why we keep encountering particular lessons, hidden gifts, and talents that we've carried forward, and sometimes even the deeper origins of wounds we're here to heal. And this is one of my favorite topics because for years I've witnessed how understanding a past life can create a powerful shift in how someone understands themselves, their relationships, and what they can do differently this time around. Spirituality is the doorway. Sovereignty is the embodiment. I want to start today by letting you know that today is going to be heavier on spiritual ideas and teachings. So if you are new to the show, I would suggest going back to episode 2, Exploring the Akashic Records, and 4, Soul Contracts, to get a good background for today's topic. And I'll put links in the show notes for those episodes. Also, the Akashic Records holds your soul's experiences since you left Source, and past lives is only just part of that experience. So if you find that you are feeling called to explore this in your Akashic Records, my Akashic Record readings are open at this time if you feel called to do that work with your guides. I offer readings virtually live over Zoom, and I'm currently doing 25-minute and 60-minute sessions. So let's get started with a few key concepts and definitions. So as we go further into today's topic, this is going to make a lot more sense for you. First, you need to understand that you are just a fractal of your higher self, meaning before you incarnate on Earth, your higher self plans out your life and experiences with your Akashic guides. Then your higher self sends a piece of itself to Earth to carry out that plan, and you are that piece. And the reason being is that our earthly bodies cannot contain the entirety of your higher self, so it sends a piece of itself. Part of the reason that we even embark on this spiritual journey is to expand our light grid, our energy bodies, so that we can hold more of our higher self in our lifetime and express it authentically. Also, the difference between past life regressions and Akashic readings. A past life regression is where a practitioner guides you either through hypnosis or meditation to go back to a past life and view that life in chronological order as it happened. And looking at past lives in the Akashic Records is a little different. Your guides may not find it important to share the chronological order of past life events because it may not be important to the reading at that time. So in Akashic readings, you may not get information like, oh, you were a woman in the 1600s and your job was as a midwife and you were burned as a witch. You may not get things like that. You may get more like you have a witch wounding from a prior life where you were wrongfully persecuted for it. And that keeps you from fully stepping into being seen and expressing your gifts. Akashic past life information is to help you understand why you are experiencing certain challenges in your life. Your Akashic Records holds all of your past lives, both on Earth and not on Earth. And we'll get into more of that later. So when you ask questions in a reading, your guides are going to highlight certain lives where that past life is influencing your current reality. A regression helps you to look at one life at a time and just to kind of see more of the specific details of it. So, what exactly is a past life? A past life is a prior lived experience of your soul. And I tell people the best way to think of past lives is like a play, where you were always the star of each show, and the other souls play supporting actors in your life. Some are key characters to you, and some make small appearances. But when each play is done, you move on to the next one. And the story is a little different each time, depending on what your soul needs to learn and wants to experience. And you and the souls that you incarnate with change roles each time. So, for example, your mother in a prior life might be just a best friend in your next one, or a sibling in a prior life might be your parent in the next one. Or you might not reincarnate with some souls ever again. It just depends on what you choose. So let's touch on different types of lives that you can have. And this is important because our souls have goals and missions, and all of our lives combined, including your current life, plays an important role for your soul's evolution. Spiritual sovereignty is the main purpose on this podcast, and that includes being able to ask yourself the big questions of why my soul would choose certain experiences. Not because we are victim blaming, but so that we can step out of that victim consciousness and start to understand the lessons that we are learning. So, this is where we can start to participate with life instead of just letting life happen to us and we feel powerless to our circumstances. So, when I'm working in the Akashic records, past lives can be divided into 3 different types of categories. And I'm just going to lightly touch on these because we go deeper in the Lightworker Sisterhood membership and just for the sake of time. But the first type of life that you can have is either historical or cultural incarnations. And this is where the soul chooses to incarnate at specific times or eras or epochs and into specific cultures that's usually going to play a really big role in Earth's evolution at that time. Examples of this is going to be having past lives in Lemuria or Atlantis, or ancient civilizations like ancient Egypt or Greece or some Celtic Viking type of societies, or often involving roles like priestesses, philosophers, astronomers. Okay. You can also have past lives within the medieval period. So lifetimes during the Middle Ages, characterized by knights and royalty, kings and queens, or some kind of turbulent societal and rigid romantic values. Okay. You can also have some recent era type of lives. I see a lot of people have past lives within the 19th century, usually towards the turn of the century or like the 1920s. Often because that's linked to why some people feel a really deep, unexplainable affinity for vintage aesthetics, music, or some literature. Sometimes clusters of light workers and star seeds will deliberately incarnate at certain times right before global crisis, just to help anchor light and empathy needed to help navigate those events. Okay. The second type of past life is special roles and archetypes. So these are lives that are categorized by social standing or daily realities a soul chooses to experience. So this is going to be your stuff like ordinary lives, which the majority of past lives are going to be ordinary lives. but they're thought to be simple daily existence lives. Farmers, merchants, caretakers, mothers, the things that we see every day. And those lives provide really important lessons in themselves too, even though they may feel ordinary, because it can help you really pinpoint certain subtle feelings that are kind of playing in the background whenever you revisit those lives. Then you have a really interesting type of past life. These are what's called catalytic lives. These are lives where souls want to experience some kind of drastic or devastating situation, which offer the soul complex challenges to overcome. So these are going to be lives where you are centered in conflict, like war, or some kind of personal upheaval. Okay. Another type of life within this category is either famous or spiritual figures. You can have a past life as a famous person. So this is going to be your past lives as famous artists or healers or spiritual teachers who left a very distinct impression on the collective consciousness. The last category, is very interesting, is non-human or multidimensional forms. So these are past lives where you are not human. You might be an animal or a nature spirit. And some traditions propose that a soul's journey may include incarnating as animals or nature spirits like fairies, different types of what we would consider mythical beings. But it's to really experience instinct and survival or a deep connection to Earth. And the other type of life within that category is starseeds, incarnating on other planets. And when working in the Akashic Records, we don't just have past lives on Earth. There are other schools of planets that offer different lessons that we may choose to go through. But no matter what kind of life you choose, as you zoom out and see the bigger picture of your soul's evolutional journey, each life plays a role in whatever it is that the soul is wanting to move through and expand upon. So those are the different types of lives that you can have. So now let's go into a concept for just a second. And our brains are not going to like this, okay? Our brains really like linear time. But you have to remember, and as I mentioned just before, space and time does not work the same. And in some dimensions does not even exist like it does here on Earth. So as we work in the Akashic Records and we're taking a really zoomed out look at our soul, the more zoomed out that we go, you start to realize that no matter what year that the lives are taking place in, they're all happening at the same time. But the life that you're in right now is the one that you, as a fractal of your higher self, is deciding to focus on. Which segues me into the next concept, past life bleed over. Bleed over is the idea that emotional, physical, or psychological experiences from a past life can intrude into your current life. And it describes how unresolved traumas or ancient memories from another lifetime can manifest in the present day as either fears, power dynamics in relationships, or even gifts and talents in your current life. So, how does bleed over happen? And what I'm getting ready to say and explain is part of the whole reason that you hear so much about healing limiting beliefs, mindset work, DNA healing, and regulating your emotions within the spiritual and holistic space. Because bleed over occurs when a situation for you as a soul is so big and important that you have a really big emotion or a thought from that situation. And our thoughts and emotions that we have are so powerful that they can create energetic impressions. And when those emotions and thoughts are so big in that moment, that's whenever that gets created. And so these energetic impressions will then get stuck or run in our energy field as a program or limiting belief until we heal them. And when we pass, we take with us the memories and those energetic impressions of that life with us into the next life. So when situations come up in our current life that trigger us, and now this is from a past life perspective only, we are creating a story of our reality that may not really be true or the whole truth, because those energetic impressions are running in the background that we may not be aware of. So, for example, I've seen this a lot with women who have lost husbands in past lives. And because society was so much different at those times, women either had to very quickly remarry or they were left destitute. So, in that example, let's say that you have a spouse in a past life who dies suddenly or tragically, and you are completely consumed by grief and shock, that you never really get over that. And you either enter into a marriage with somebody else that you don't really love, or you struggle with poverty because at the time women were not allowed to work. So fast forward to the current life. It can show up in the current life as anxiousness around your current life partner because you have a fear that something catastrophic will happen to you as a result of them passing away or leaving. And so some women will have these unexplained fears of their partners dying because of this kind of past life experience being an energetic impression that's in their blueprint, in their energy field. Here's a personal example for me. 4 years ago, I met a girl and we both instantly knew that we knew each other. We had never met in this life, but we had this instant recognition and we became really fast friends. And interestingly, at that time, I was learning how to facilitate past life regressions. And part of that training for me was to experience regressions for myself. And I happened to see a past life where I was a witch, and my friend in this life was my sister in this past life. And I saw how in that past life, she was jealous of my gifts. And I actually had a very well-known business as the town witch at that time. But because of how she felt about me and this jealousy, she spread lies on me within the town, and I ended up getting killed. Fast forward to the current life, she ended up becoming jealous of my Reiki business at the time and tried to disrupt one of my Reiki training classes. And it was interesting because she kept talking about the undercurrent of competition and jealousy between us. And I ended up having to end that friendship, but similar dynamics played out between us in this life that was present in our past lives. And this is why I absolutely love looking at past lives in Akashic readings and regressions, because sometimes we spend years trying to fix a fear, a relationship pattern, or a struggle with self-worth, only to realize that the roots go much deeper than what we realize. And they can potentially show you the original moment that those are created, and not just when, but why. And it allows us to see those patterns and gives us the key to make different choices. So usually people start exploring past lives either in Akashic readings or regressions when they have done extensive work already and their current understandings isn't fully explaining it. So I want to just offer you some questions that I get a lot whenever I do Akashic readings, and to let you know what you can ask about if you feel called to explore this. So some of the most common questions that I get for past lives is, what past life trauma is affecting me in this life? Another question is, have I experienced any past lives with, and then you can insert the person's name. And if so, what is the nature of our soul contract for this life? Another one is, did I make any vows in a past life? And what's the nature of that contract? Another one is, what gifts has my soul developed from past lives? And finally, are there any past life vows that I can revoke? And if so, why did I make them to start with? So those are a few questions that you can ask whenever you do Akashic record readings. Thank you for listening to the Spiritual Sovereign Sister podcast. If you feel called to explore your past lives because you've done all the work and the work still hasn't fully cleared the issue, Akashic readings are an amazing way to do this. And I'll put a link in the show notes below as my readings are open now. And remember, the purpose of exploring your past lives is to better understand the patterns, fears, gifts, and lessons that still might be influencing your life today so that you can stop making the same mistakes and step out of that reoccurring pattern. Until next time, remember your light.